Okay, we talked about vision last week. It was really interesting. I love that big picture thinking. We love that here because we love numbers, but we also love like what direction are we going? Because we can do really well and we can try to make a lot of money, but if it's not really taking us anywhere, then kind of what's the point? What's the point? Okay, so we like to know which direction we're going in our businesses. Okay, so now hopefully at this point in time, you've either set aside time on your calendar to draft your vision, or you have already done it, which would be super cool. If you have already done your vision, would you tell me in the comment section below? I would love to hear if you've done it. Just even say like, I wrote mine, or yes, I wrote my vision, my vivid vision. Just write that in the comment section. I'd love to hear it. So after we have our vision, then we start to break it down and we start to say, okay, well, it's the end, right? When I'm recording this, it's the end of 2022 and we're looking at 2023. You can always work on vision no matter what time of the year. You can always set goals no matter what time of the year. So this video is not only specific to the end of 2022, but at the end of the year, a lot of times we're setting goals for 2023, and we should be setting goals in our business because we need to know what activities we should be doing in order to achieve our goals. So if we don't know what we're doing, then what's the point? Then we're just, again, driving with a lot of activity without any point. So we need to set some goals for the next year. And let's just have a quick reminder on it's just a structure for setting goals. As you guys know, we love the idea of setting SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Okay, that's SMART, the acronym SMART. So let's talk through real quick what those things are. So specific means that you just need to give a little bit more detail so that you can tell whether or not you've actually done the thing. So for example, you might say, I want to grow revenue next year. But if you just say revenue, that's not super specific. Maybe instead you want to set something that's a little bit more specific to say, I want to grow client revenue next year. But then we're going to go down and make this statement even better. Okay. So I want to grow client revenue because maybe you have some revenue from some other things that you really have no ability to affect, but you know that you want to grow client revenue. Okay. So that's specific. So the next thing is that it's measurable. Okay. So saying I want to grow client revenue next year is not super measurable because you could grow it by $1 and then you've achieved your goal. I'm pretty sure that's not the goal, right? So what we want to do is we want to say, give it some type of measurement value so that we can easily judge, did we do it, did we not? So let's say, I'd like to grow client revenue by 50% next year. Got a little bit better, didn't it? We know what client revenue was last year because we keep financials, so we can measure it at the end of next year and know, did we grow 50% or did we not grow 50%? So the next one is achievable or attainable. And so this is where you need to use a little bit of common sense and say, is that realistic? Knowing maybe 50%, maybe that is not realistic because maybe you've grown 10% every year and then all of a sudden jumping to 50% might be something that you guys haven't figured out how to do. So that would be potentially not achievable. So you need to really, take a look within and take a look at your organization and say, like, is that achievable based on where we've been in the past and the things that we have going on? Is it realistic to expect 50% this next year? So maybe if you have new marketing efforts, new team members, you have all the capacity built, and you know exactly what you need to do to get that 50% in, maybe it is. And maybe that's a really great goal for you guys. But be realistic and don't just put like pie in the sky goals, because all that's going to do is actually bring you down when you realize you're not achieving the goals. So we need them to be somewhat attainable so that we feel like we actually can potentially make it happen. The R, it stands for realistic. It's also sometimes relevant. This one, we would not want to set goals that would not be relevant to the success of the business or would not be getting us to the place that we want to go. Maybe they're not within the vision at all. Or that would be like in this same situation for this type of business, we can make up a really ridiculous example here and just say, maybe the goal for next year for this business is to, have a stockpile of toilet paper for at least a year. And, they could set that as a goal. Now, it's not really relevant. It's not really moving the needle for anybody. That might be something that they want to do, but it's not necessarily a goal. A goal needs to have a bigger picture and it needs to be moving you towards some kind of long-term vision. Okay, so make sure relevant, realistic, make sure that whatever you're setting actually makes sense. Because also think if you have a goal, you want other people to rally behind the goal. So if it was something like stockpiling toilet paper, a lot of people would not really be all that interested in that unless you were potentially a toilet paper company. You needed to build up your supply for another, maybe world event. So keep in mind whether or not your goals are relevant to your overall vision. And lastly, you need to have time-bound goals. So time-bound means that you can have a measurement point. So in my first example where I said client revenue, we want client revenue to increase by 50% by the end of the year. That is fine because the end of the year would be, something that you should technically be able to measure, but it's a little vague. So I'd rather you say, we want client revenue to increase by 50% by December 31st, 2023, because then it's not going to get mixed up on which year we're talking about. And if somebody says that goal at the end of 2023, are they talking about next year or this year? Whatever, be specific and put a timestamp on it. Okay, that will make a better goal. And now if you communicate to your team, hey everybody, we have client revenue. We would like to have client revenue increase by 50% by December 31st, 2023. Everybody knows exactly what the goal is. Then you can start breaking that down and work it into KPIs, where now you can say, okay, this is our goal. How are we going to achieve it? And this is where KPIs come into play. So you can take that goal, break it down and say, how are we going to achieve getting 50% more client revenue? This is where you can say, okay, let's look at our client stack right now. Who are our clients? Is there anybody that needs a price increase? Is there anybody that we really could sell more services to? Is there anybody that we're concerned is going to fall off maybe our client list and we actually need to look for a replacement? Because if you're in client service, there's always a rotation. You might keep clients for a long time, but there's always going to be times where people are going to fall off. So what do we need to do to grow 50%? Probably you're going to need to add more clients. So what are your strategies for bringing on new clients? And these can be some KPIs that you can develop. Well, we typically get new clients when we go out and we do speaking engagements. Okay, great. Well, how many speaking engagements do you need in order to gain a new client? Maybe it's every time you do a speaking engagement, you typically get 3 inquiries and one of those turns into a client. Well, now you know, okay, we need to get speaking engagements on the board for 2023 because that's going to help us reach our client revenue goals. So this is how you can look at it with your team and just really think about, well, how will we achieve this? And this is why we do this right now at the beginning of the year, because we can start to establish these strategies and we can start to execute and we can start to measure. And that's where the KPIs come in. Okay, so I'll make sure that you guys have a link to another KPI video that I did, so you can check that out. But take your goals and then design your KPIs to help you reach your goals. But make sure that those goals are really dialed in and they're smart. And ultimately those goals are going to help you reach your vision. Wonderful. Well, the next video we're going to talk about will be how to communicate some of this stuff to your team. Really excited about that one. And definitely check out the KPI video as well. All right. See you soon.